Hey everyone, welcome to First Capital Online. My name's Tyler. I'm one of the pastors on staff here, and I'm standing backstage. We're so glad that you joined us this morning online. But listen, online's awesome. In person is even better. So if you could, we would love for you to join us next weekend at one of our services at our physical location. We have services on Saturday at 5 and Sunday at 9 and 10:45. If this is your first time with us on First Capital Online, please go to www.firstcapitalchristian.org/welcome and fill out that short form, and we are going to send you some free gas. Seriously, we're going to send you free gas in order for you to come and join us in person. We are so excited about what this weekend's service brings. First Capital Online starts right now.
Well, let's all stand up together and worship. Come on. Sing, He's coming on the clouds. He's coming on the clouds. Kings and kingdoms will bow down.
go ahead and take a seat for just a moment. I'll have you stand up again in just a minute. It's good to have you folks here this weekend for a service. You know, as much as it rained on Friday, just a couple of inches here, it's hard to imagine what 30 or 40 inches in Texas must have looked like. But we are glad that you're here. We want to welcome you to First Capital Christian Church. Just want you to know that everything we do tonight is about helping people find Jesus and follow him better. We do want to welcome you. If you're a regular attender, we would ask that you would fill out the connection card that's attached to your bulletin and put that in the offering plate when it comes by a little bit later in the service. If you're a guest with us this evening, we would love for you to fill out that connection card also, but we would like you to hang on to that and take that to guest services. It's just a little table that's just right outside of these doors. I'll be there after the service, and I would love to have the opportunity to meet you, and I have a gift for you. So I'd love to have you do that. A couple of quick announcements. First of all, we have an app. And if you have a smartphone, we would love to have you download that app. All you have to do is go to the App Store on your smartphone and look and type in First Capital Christian Church, and it should pop up, and just download that. There's a variety of things that you can do on it, including you can fill out your connection card online. Rather than taking your pen and using the one in the bulletin, you can just push a button, and next thing you know, you've signed in for the evening or the day. Also, Fall Down is coming up. It's 2 weeks from today, and we have several needs still. The first of that is we need a truckload of candy. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but as you came in, there was actually a truck parked underneath the overhang outside, and we need to fill that with candy. So we have 2 weeks to do that, and we would love for you to bring a big bag of candy next week and help us fill that truck up. The second thing that we need is we still need about 80 volunteers in order to pull off Fall Down. There's a variety of opportunities that are listed out in the lobby, and we would love for you to take a moment and fill that in when you finish up here. The last thing about Fall Down is we still need to make sure that we can get the word out. So if you haven't had the opportunity to have www.fdfair.com put on your back window of your car, and you'd like to do that, we've got people ready to do that after the service, and we would love to have you help us out with that. So we're going to continue on in our service, but before we do that, I'd love for you to stand and find somebody and tell them how good they look tonight.
Hey, and if you're joining us online, man, we are so glad that you joined us. If you could, do me a favor, if it's your first time, go to the website right below me and fill out that short form, and we are going to send you a free gas gift card so you can come join us in person. We hope you enjoy the rest of the service. Thanks for worshiping with us. I see his body break. I see his fingers bleed. I see the darkness tremble at the ground below his feet. And in the darkest hour, there on Calvary, well, he was sweetly broken, broken beautifully, broken beautifully. So come out into the waters, come let the broken say, hey. Come on, sons and daughters, his love changes everything. So come where the fear is fighting, you find in the risen King. Come on and let the light in. Your love changes everything. When the heavens open, I saw the sins of men. Come a crown of glory as you died and rose again. Yeah. Here it is. And in the darkest hour, in the valley low, well, I will fear no evil. You'll never let me go. You'll never let me go. So come out into the wild. Come let the broken sing. Come on, sons and daughters. His love changes everything. Come where the fear is fighting. Finding the risen King. Come on and let the light. Your love changes everything. Your love, your love, your love changes everything. Your love, your love, your love changes everything. And none can overcome when death is lost at sea. 'Cause your love, your love, your love. Whoa, whoa, and in the darkest hour, and in the valley low, well, I will fear no evil. You'll never let me go. You'll never let me go. So come out into the waters. Come let the broken sing. Come on, sons and daughters. His love changes everything. Come where the fear is fighting. Finding the risen King. Come on and let the light. Your love changes everything. Your love, your love, 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 your love. Whoa, whoa, come on. And I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb until I met you. Come on. And I was breathing but not alive. And all my failures I tried to hide. It's my tomb. It was my tomb till I met you. Sing it out. 'Cause when you call my name and I ran out of that grave, yeah, out of the darkness into your glorious day, you call my name and I ran out of that grave. this, church. The old man knew Jesus when I met you. What a day, 'cause when you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Hey. Well, you called my name and I ran out of that grave, yeah, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing, and I have a future. My eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, shout it, I ran out of that grave, yeah, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Yeah. Father God, you are good. God, we know that you are calling our names and we are running towards you, Lord. Father God, we praise you for your resurrection and your life. Lord, this weekend is all about you. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys can be seated.
Are a ton of ways to give here at First Capital. As we transition into our time of offering here in the auditorium in person, I want to tell you guys about a new way that we can give together online and in person. We have created a First Capital Christian Church app that is available on the iTunes App Store and the Google Play Store. And honestly, we feel like we've just now got into this century with technology. It's pretty awesome. You guys need to check it out. Download it right now. No, seriously, get your phone out and download it right now. Just type in First Capital Christian on your App Store and download it. And this will be the easiest way that you will ever be able to give your offering. It's one simple click. You set up your information one time, and then from then on, you can just click it, and it automatically will give whatever amount that you want to put in there. Also, there's a way to watch our services online, watch past services, create a profile, check in. You can do all kinds of stuff. There's even a Bible app for you to follow along with Pastor Randy as he brings the message. It's an amazing thing. Check it out and join us as we give our offerings to a God who is deserving of all.
Something happened in here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I've got to beware.
There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What's going down? What a field day for the heat. varying sides, mostly saying hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What's going down?
Paranoia strikes deep into your life, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and take you away. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What's going down?
Oh, we better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Rena, this is a very tense situation. We were here just 6 weeks ago when the Ku Klux Klan came to town to protest.
I don't know you, but I don't like you. And I really don't like the way that sounded. We've never met. Doesn't matter. I've already made up my mind. I know all I need to know. Pick a label. If you were the one thinking that right now, what label would go there? What fill in the blank? I don't like you because you're black. I don't like you because you're a neo-Nazi. I don't like you because you're Muslim. I don't like you because you voted for Trump. I don't like you because you backed Obama. I don't like you because you're a convicted felon. I don't like you. You're gay. You're transgender. Worst of all, I don't like you because you're a UK fan. Have you ever predetermined who it is that you don't like? Have you ever just said, I don't like you, and you've already predetermined it? It doesn't matter. Don't confuse me with the facts. There's a word for that. It's called prejudice. It is to prejudge. It is to form an opinion, to come to a conclusion without gathering all the facts. So who is it in your world? And how did the social, political environment in which we live, how is that feeding the fire inside of you? When you watched this stuff at Charlottesville just a couple of weeks ago, what did you do with that? How did you process that? Did you come to conclusions? Did you take sides? Did you draw opinions about people that you've never met just because of what you saw? We live in a culture that's becoming more and more polarized. The language becomes more and more pointed, and the emotions run hotter and hotter. And we make judgments about people. People that we don't know, people that we've never met. We don't know them, but we know we don't like them. That's gone on for a long time. I hate you. Well, why do you hate him? Well, he's a McCoy. I hate him. Why? Well, he's a Hatfield, ain't he? When I was in high school, I hated Randy Vernon. Never met him. Just knew I didn't like him. He played for Breck County. That's all it took. Didn't need anything more than that. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that feeling where you didn't like somebody that you had never met just because of where they were from or what they stood for? Is there any of that in you? And here's where it gets interesting for me. This is where the thing turns. The Bible says that Jesus was tempted in every way that you and I are. Does it say that? He was tempted every way you and I are. Can you picture Jesus as a bigot? It's just inconceivable, isn't it? To picture Jesus as some kind of a racial bigot. If you're a Jesus believer, I'm going to make your picture of Jesus very uncomfortable today. I hope that before we're done, you're going to get really, really, really uncomfortable with Jesus. I want you to open your Bible to Matthew chapter 15. Now, just let me go back to where Ed went earlier, and that is, if you have not yet downloaded our Bible app or our First Capital Christian Church app, I would encourage you to do that, because then all you have to do is you open our app and you hit Bible, and it's there. And we're going to be in Matthew chapter 15. And it would give you a chance to join me there. Now, before I start reading there, I have one very important piece I want to share with you before we go any further. The Gospel of Matthew was written by Matthew. And Matthew wrote his gospel to Christians who had come up as Jews. He was a Jew writing to Jews that had become Christians. So he was writing to a Jewish audience, and his gospel was written because he understood the way they think, and he understands what triggers things for them. And that's going to be really important as we work through this little passage today. It starts in Matthew chapter 15, verse 21, and it says, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. Now, Tyre and Sidon were coastal cities on the Mediterranean Sea. They were in the area that you might have known if you studied ancient history, Phoenicia. And then today would be modern day Lebanon. But when Matthew wrote this, his audience immediately would have thought back to Tyre and Sidon equals Jezebel. That's where Jezebel grew up. That's where Jezebel called home. That's where Ahab had found his queen. And she had come in and just created all kinds of havoc in Israel. This was pagan country. This was Gentile country. The people that lived there, well, they were nasty, disgusting. And you know, in those days, Jews were extremely careful not to have anything to do. They did everything they could to disassociate themselves with people that weren't Jews. For example, you had a lot of Jews that lived in this area, and Jesus grew up in this area known as Galilee. There was a lake up there, and the region around that was known as Galilee. Now, it was up kind of in the north, and in the south was Jerusalem. And that's where they would go for festivals and things like that. That's where the temple was. But what was interesting was when they went from Galilee down to Jerusalem, they wouldn't take the shortest, quickest route, because they would have had to go through the area known as Samaria. And the problem with Samaria is that's where Samaritans lived. And they despised these half-breeds. They weren't completely Jewish. And so what they would do is, instead of coming straight from Galilee down to Jerusalem, they would go all the way across the Jordan River down the other side and come back in at Jericho to come into Jerusalem, adding miles and miles and miles to their trip, rather than take the chance that they might run into a Samaritan. Now, you know how they think about Samaritans. Well, let me tell you, people that lived in Tyre and Sidon, they thought 10 times worse about those people. They were disgusting, despicable, filthy, contaminated. And to hear that Jesus had chosen to vacation there, well, that was scandalous. But it's about to get worse. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." This woman begins with the traditional cry of a beggar. "Have mercy on me." She comes as a beggar crying out to him, and she's wanting something. She's needy. And that need pushed her across two huge social barriers. The first one was this, is that she's a woman. And in that culture and in that day, women didn't speak to men in public. Men would never speak to a woman in public. A man would not speak to his own wife in public. And a woman, any decent woman, would never approach a man and speak to him out in public, especially a holy man. And so this woman has already crossed that barrier. Now, that's a barrier we don't understand in our culture. You know, in our culture, back in my day, we were told children were to be seen and not heard. In their day, they would have said that about women, that women were to be seen and not heard. We don't fathom that. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't fit into our culture, but that's the way it was then. And then there's the fact that she is a woman who's talking to this Jewish man, this Gentile woman speaking to a Jew. Now, when Matthew tells the story, he intentionally chooses inflammatory language. He is trying to incite emotion here, and he says that she is a Canaanite. He doesn't describe her as a Gentile. He doesn't describe her as a Syro-Phoenician, which would have been accurate in both cases. He says she is a Canaanite. What's the big deal with that? Well, the Canaanites were the hated enemies of the Israelites. If you remember, back in the day, back in Jewish history, the Canaanites were living in the land. It was called Canaan. And Israel came in and went to war with the Canaanites for that piece of land, for that promised land, and literally wiped them out. By Jesus' day, there is no longer a nation of Canaan. But there is a remnant, a smattering of those people scattered among the regions. And so this woman would have been one. When Matthew refers to her as a Canaanite, understand this, that is a derogatory racial term. It's a racial slur. So, now let's get caught up. Jesus has taken some time off, so he travels to the last place that any good, upstanding Jew would ever go, and immediately he is confronted by this woman begging, and yet it's not just a woman, she is a pagan woman, she's a heathen, she's of the dreaded enemy of our people. Every Jewish Christian who read this cringed. Now, through the whole narrative, the woman remains nameless. We never learn her name. We only know her as the Canaanite. So, she is a nameless woman who is labeled. Nameless and labeled. These are the two essentials that lay at the heart of racism and bigotry. I don't really know you. But if I can figure out what box to put you in, then I know what I'm going to do with you. I know how I'm going to deal with you. That Muslim, white trash, white supremacist, pervert, slant, nigger. You see, if I can come up with a derogatory, demeaning, humiliating term to call you, somehow that makes me feel superior. And if I can figure out what box I'm going to put you in, now I don't have to deal with you. I don't know your name and I don't want to know your name. I've got the box I'm going to put you in, and I'm okay as long as you stay in your box where you belong, where I don't know and I don't care about your pain and your hurt and your suffering. I don't care about what's going on in your world. You just stay there where you belong. If they remain nameless and labeled, it creates the distance we need to make them less than human. This woman came to Jesus because she was hurting. Her daughter was suffering. And you know exactly, when your daughter suffers, you suffer. When your kids hurt, you hurt. In fact, sometimes we hurt more than our kids hurt. Don't we? So she swallowed her pride and she came begging, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. Help me, please. I'm begging you. Please. Now here we've got this beggar begging, but there's more to it than that. She calls him Lord. Now that word has several layers to it, and it can mean a lot of things. It can just simply be nothing more than a respectful way to approach a stranger. It would be like saying, Sir, could you help me? But she takes that term Lord and she puts it with Son of David. That's a messianic term. How did she know that Jesus was of the lineage of David? And what did she mean by that? Did she mean everything that comes to our mind when we think about that? Did she understand that? Was she claiming that this was Messiah? Was she saying, I recognize that you are the one that God had promised to rescue us? Did she understand everything that's carried in that term? Did she say, I understand you're the one with the ability to do something that nobody else has been able to do for my daughter? This woman came to Jesus begging. And Jesus did not say a word. This woman who respectfully approached him is rebuffed. This woman who recognizes him as Messiah, apparently that wasn't enough. This woman who is hurting and miserable, didn't matter. Jesus just ignores her. His response is no response. He didn't answer at all. He just shuns her. He just treats her as if she didn't exist. When Matthew's audience reads this, they smile. When they read this, they nod in agreement. Yep, that's what she deserves. That's putting her in her place. What about you? How you doing with this? How does this fit in with your view of Jesus? For most followers of Jesus, they wince. So out of character from what we expect from him. Some of us are old enough to remember the old WWJD bracelets. You remember? What would Jesus do? And we had that "What would Jesus do" bracelet. Well, what would Jesus do? He wouldn't ignore her. He wouldn't treat her like she didn't exist. What would Jesus do when a woman came begging? How would Jesus respond to that? Well, he wouldn't ignore her, that's for sure. Blow up my Bible. I mean, this violates everything that I understand about Jesus. But his disciples don't seem surprised. Get this. They don't seem surprised by this. In fact, they pile on. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away. She keeps crying out after us. Get rid of her. She's just a nuisance. More than a nuisance, she's a Canaanite. She's the enemy. There is not an ounce of sympathy for this woman from them. Now that's going to stir something in Jesus, isn't it? Jesus is going to respond to that. I mean, we know how Jesus responds when his disciples step out of line. You remember the women were bringing their children to Jesus, and the disciples said, "Get these kids out of here." And Jesus rebuked them. He put them in their place, didn't he? He says, "Let the children come to me." You remember? Or there was that time when that blind man was crying out, and they told him to be quiet, leave Jesus alone. And Jesus put him in their place, and he goes over to the blind man and he heals him. You remember? And Jesus knows how to deal with this. It took a little bit to get him going, but now, step in, Jesus. He does. Jesus spoke up. He answered, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel." What? My first thought when I read that was, then what are you doing up here? What are you doing in pagan country? But my second thought was, Jesus is saying, "Hey, lady, you're not on my agenda. I came with a purpose, and you're not it." Matthew's audience agrees, do you? Those Jewish Christians, they nod in agreement. They think he's got it right. What about you? How you doing with this so far? You think I'm going to bail him out, don't you? Huh. So Jesus ignores her. Then the disciples pile on. And then he says, to the disciples or to her, I'm not sure which, but he says, my purpose doesn't include people like your kind. Have I got it right? Correct me if I've missed something here. But I think I'm getting it pretty much exactly the way the thing's coming. The woman came and knelt down before him. "Lord, help me," she said. I mean, you got to give this woman some points for persistence, don't you? I mean, you look at what she's gone through. She's pushed past being ignored. She's pushed past the disciples' rebuke. She's pushed past Jesus' cutting comment. Either she thinks they're not serious, and I think they've made it very clear that they're serious by now, or she is so deeply hurt. She is in such misery. She's at such a point of desperation that she would put up with anything if she thought she might find relief for her and her daughter. So now she kneels. And with the sobs of her daughter screaming in her ears, she simplifies her plea and she just says, "Lord, help me. Please help me." Who could ignore pain like that? How hard does your heart have to be to ignore that? Knowing what we know about Jesus, he can't turn her down now, can he? Jesus replied, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." Can you believe Jesus said that? Do you hear what Jesus just said? Do you hear what Jesus called her? Let me make sure you catch this. Jesus just called her a bitch. He said, "You're a dog." It was a term of dishonor, shame, disrespect. I mean, people in those days, when you talked about dog, you have a picture of dog completely different than they had a picture of dog. Think wild animals. Think running in packs, rummaging through the garbage, filthy, unclean, unwelcome. That's pretty well sums up what Jesus said to this woman. So how does that fit with your view of Jesus? How's he doing for you today? I'll tell you this. Matthew's audience is licking it up. They are loving it. Now, I just need to stop here. What is going on? I mean, what is this doing in the Bible? And why would Jesus act this way? Is he having a bad hair day? I mean, what is going on with Jesus? It's so unlike any other story of Jesus that I know. Have we just caught him at a weak moment, or is he revealing who he really is? Well, I'm going to take you down two different approaches to this text. And we're going to look at this text two different ways. The first one is a more gentle approach. And it goes like this. I mentioned that people in Bible days usually thought of dogs as wild animals that ran in packs and that actually were dangerous. Think of wolves, think of coyotes. That's the way they would have thought of dogs in their day. Very, very different from what our day is. However, there were a few dogs, there were some dogs, very few, that were trained to help with chores. There were dogs that helped in those days with shepherding, for example, and helped protect the flock in those cases. But the word that's translated dog here is a different word than the ordinary word for dog. It's a different form. It's a diminutive form. Now, what I mean by diminutive is smaller. It could be translated as puppies, or it could be pets. This term could be a lap dog, like, well, probably smaller than that, all right? But a lap dog, all right? Now, it could be that what has happened here is Jesus has immediately recognized this woman's heart. And he saw that she's a good woman. And so what he is doing here is he enters into a playful dialogue with her. And he starts playing with word games with her. And in effect, he calls her a pet. He calls her a lap dog. And she picks up on it. And he said, you know, you're just a lap dog. And she's quick. She says, yes, it is, Lord. But even the lap dogs, even the pets, eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. Wild dogs would never be allowed in the house. You would never feed wild dogs your scraps. What would happen if you fed wild dogs your scraps? You'd never get rid of them. They'd be there all the time. They would endanger your livestock. They would endanger your children. Wild dogs would never be in the house to pick up the food that falls to the table. Wild dogs would never have you reach off your plate, pick it off and hold it down like some of you do. I know you do. But a pet would. What Jesus is doing here is he took this outsider and he made her an insider. He brought her into the house. It's not like she did anything to deserve it. But then neither do we. It's grace. She got it. I mean, she came to him believing that he was Messiah. She came to him believing that he was the Son of God. And nothing could shake her faith. When her first prayer wasn't answered, it didn't stop her. And when his response didn't match her desires, she persisted. Even when he said, you know you don't deserve this. She understood. It's not about what I deserve. It's only about what you can do. Jesus said to her, woman, you have got great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed. Just like that. Now, if you believe what I just said, then you are the woman in that story. Just a recipient of undeserved grace who understands that Jesus can do what you could never do on your own. I like that approach a lot. Okay? But what if you and I aren't the woman? If that's not who we are in the story, then where are we in the story? I think there's an edgier, harsher approach to interpret what actually happened here. What if you and I, what if we're in Jesus' sandals? What if what's going on right here is Jesus is showing us what we look like when we treat other people with prejudice and bigotry? He started by just ignoring her. But it went further than that. He says, your name's not on my agenda. You don't have an appointment, and you can never have one. You're not welcome in my world. And then he calls her derogatory names and he insults her. And at the very end, we get really uncomfortable with Jesus acting like that. We think, well, that's not very, what would Jesus do of Jesus? We think that doesn't look good on you, Jesus. And Jesus says, it doesn't look good on you either. You see, it may be that what Jesus is doing is simply holding up a mirror so that we can see ourselves. When we dehumanize other people, we become less than human ourselves. When we treat people as nameless, we have no desire to get to know their name because we don't want to let them in and let them close. When we label people and categorize them so that we can put them in a box with others like them where they lose their identity and lose their worth, we're not very much like Jesus. Listen, if you struggle with this, you're going to struggle with this. Jesus makes this unnamed Canaanite the star of this story. She becomes the hero. Jesus commends her great faith, and he fixes her problem. In fact, I wonder if maybe she was the reason that Jesus took this side road into this pagan country. I wonder if he was just looking for somebody with faith, and he was going to just travel till he found somebody, and bingo, there she was, right where you would least expect to find her. And here you are, right where someone would least expect to find you. And God brought you here to change you. I don't care where you were before or what you were before. I want you to become the person that God dreams that you would be. We've learned how to hate. Now let's learn how to love. Let's learn how to love people we've never loved before. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to talk about an opportunity that we have to love people we've never loved before. Father in heaven, I just pray that your word and your spirit will come together to convict us and to move us and to change us. Father, I pray that we will be people that see others as you see them. And may we look past the filth and the disgust and see the worth. And see what you see. And may we learn to love like you love. Father, change us from the inside out. Through Christ we pray. Amen. This week has been full of the unexpected for us. This week it did not go the way that I had my to-do list laid out at the beginning of the week, because we have recognized the opportunity that lays before us. And so we have organized and are creating some organization for people that are willing to help others in need. And Hurricane Harvey is our first opportunity. Our staff has met and discussed several times this week, what can we do and what do we need to do? And what has God called us to do in response to this? And we have organized and we put together a website that we're calling Project Bring Hope. And it's bigger than Harvey. Harvey's just the first opportunity that is presented there. But this week, we have decided to try to bring hope to those that have had their hope stolen and their dreams shattered. So we've been working all week long, and we have partnered with Samaritan's Purse, an international organization that helps. And we have reached out and partnered with a current Christian church in Katy, Texas. Katy is a western suburb of Houston. And we've reached out, and they will be our on-the-ground contact in Houston. And then in the middle of the week, I had a phone call from my study partner, and he said, what are you guys going to be doing? And can we do it with you? And that led to phone calls. We have, most of you or some of you know that we have a thing we've called the Large Church Summit, where we gather the staff of large churches in small towns. And so we have begun to network that group. And we're forming a network of churches that are going to consolidate our efforts in order to go down and help those people in East Texas. And so we have a website that we've created and put up, and it's Project Bring Hope. And in that, we're going to give you the opportunity to join us in this. Let me tell you what you can do. First of all, you can donate. Donate money. Right now, they need dollars to help get this thing just started. And you can do that. We're going to, as soon as we dismiss here, at the coffee hub out here. I'm going to be out there, but there'll be blessing baskets there. And if you want to make a donation, I'm telling you that 100% of your donation will go to the victims of the thing. There's nobody taking any money anywhere. We're working through Current Christian Church in Katy with their eldership and their staff. And they have committed, they're not going to keep a dime. We're not going to keep a dime. It's going directly on to those that are in need. And you can help that way. Later on, we will be getting supplies and resources for them. But right now, they have no place to put those things. And they don't want us to send a semi-load of blankets right now because they have no place to put them. And they need a few weeks to get organized. And then third is manpower. We need manpower to go down there and help them clean up. And then we're going to need manpower to help them tear down. And then we're going to need manpower to help them build up again. And so what I am going to challenge from this congregation is that we do 6 trips in 6 months. 6 trips in 6 months. I want to challenge that at least 100 people from this congregation go. I also want, and we're intentionally putting this word out throughout our network and throughout the region here in southern Indiana, so that those that are not a part of First Capital, this isn't a First Capital thing. This is a Bring Hope thing. This is reaching out to people, and we don't care if they are believers or not. If this tugs at their heart and they want to help, we'll take them with us. And we will partner with them. And we're going to go down there and we're going to start trips. The first trip is scheduled the end of September. The other trips aren't even scheduled yet. We're putting that schedule together as we speak. What we would ask you to do, if you have an interest in going on a trip, that you just sign up and give us your contact information. And we'll have a meeting scheduled very, very, very soon, in which we will tell you what trips are going and what objective that trip has. The first several trips are going to be just cleaning up mess. And it's going to be shoveling muck. And it's going to be cutting up trees that have been downed and those kinds of things. And then there'll be trips that are going to be tearing out carpet, and tearing out drywall, and getting things down to where they can be rebuilt. And now this church down there has already committed that they're going to build 2 houses that were completely wiped out for underprivileged and needy families. And we're hoping that by coming alongside them, that those 2 houses can turn into 4 or 5 or 6 houses. And so we'll be needing to take later people that are skilled labor, people that are carpenters and plumbers and electricians, and people that have those special skills as we get these houses started to come along there. We challenge you to come with us. And so I'm going to meet you as soon as we close the service. I'll be out there if you want to talk about that. Again, there'll be a generous basket, and you can contribute there, or you can sign up for more information about trips. Pass the word to others. Have them check out the website. And we're partnering. What's going to end up on this website is they're going to say that there are going to be trips starting from Corden, Indiana. And it'll have the dates and what that trip's about. There'll be trips that are going to start from Wabash, Indiana, because we're partnered with churches there. And trips that'll start from Frankfort, Kentucky. And it'll talk about that. And sometimes a church from Greenville, Illinois, and a church from Corden, Indiana will meet in Houston. And we'll be working alongside them. And the church down in Katy is going to help coordinate all this. I hope I've given you enough information that you know what we're trying to get done and why. We believe that it's an opportunity to love people you've never loved before. It's an opportunity for you to step outside your comfort zone and make a difference in somebody else's life. Come join us. You're dismissed.